So I'm the director of eProd Solutions. eProd Solutions was initially developed for a Kenyan company called Equator Kenya Limited. I started this company in 2004, and I was lucky that my business partner is an IT specialist, and we developed systems internally because we were working at the moment. The company is sourcing from about 8,000 farmers, organized in 350 groups in some of the poorest areas of Kenya, the 4 counties basically at the coast. It is a very marginal crop that we are exporting. It's called bird's-eye chilies. So very, very small margins, very difficult market. So we really needed a system to work cost effectively with such large numbers of farmers, make sure at the same time that we would meet the export standards. So it is a bit of a difficult market. Normally the product is actually sun-dried. In our case, we buy it fresh. We make it fully traceable, and we dry it in large machines, as you can see on the picture on the right at the background. So this is basically the opportunity that we looked for, and so this way we can compete. Now, after 11 years, we realized that the software really turned into something quite special. So we call it now an ERP, Enterprise Resources Planning tool, basically to work with these large numbers of farmers. So when you are an aggregator, it is quite complicated to be able to manage all the farmers, understand the farmers, the field production, the challenges of the farmers, the access to finance, access to inputs, capacity building. So basically in our company, we developed a model around those 3 pillars. We first said we need to offer farmers market certainty. So we signed contracts with farmers. Then we need to be able to make sure that the farmers have the capacity to grow the right crop and the right meet the quality, the quantities and the volume and the quality required. So basically, we came up with a large-scale extension program. Sometimes we would organize more than 1,100 group training sessions in a year. And finally, we would need to link farmers to financial institutions, because even if you have market certainty, you know how to grow the crop, you still need to be able to finance it. So in eProd, we basically have developed different modules to tackle these challenges. So we commercialized the system a few years ago, and in 2015, but I think in 2017 we really started to take it serious. In the meantime, we are in 9 African countries. We're also in Afghanistan and Guatemala. The system is used in more than 20 different sectors, like product groups like the grains, millet, sorghum, maize, also the oil crops like sunflower, sesame, pulses, fresh vegetables, dairy, all kinds of different products. Now, in the system, there are different levels of that you can work with the farmers. Of course, each farmer at the end would like to be paid individually, but sometimes farms are organized in groups. Groups could be organized under cooperatives. Then, of course, you have the buyer. The buyer could be an exporter, could be local market, could be a food processor. Now, in reality, you have all kinds of combinations. So sometimes the buyer can buy directly from a farmer, a group. So all these things have to be able to be managed by the software. At the end, the buyers often also work with maybe development organizations or financial institutions, and they need to be able to share information. So we prepared a system to manage all this. So first of all, we have the opportunity to work in the cloud, but we also one of the few systems that actually can work fully offline, which is very important in actually most of the places that where we work. So That means that basically we install the system on a local area network or wireless area network, so people in the office can work, and synchronization requires, of course, internet, because there's a handheld application, but it is very light for the internet compared to having a cloud-based system. So in our case, we can offer both. Of course, you would like to know where are the farmers, where are the collection centers, where are the fields, so everything is georeferenced. Then you would like to communicate with the farmers, for example, through SMS, and you would like to also be able to prepare reports and share them. So in the system, it's very easy to share, for example, by email management reports. Now, there's a desktop application and there's the mobile application. So the entire team of a buyer would be in the system. So basically, the entire organogram is in the system, and the relationships are also in the system. So everybody knows who is the supervisor. So supervisors can assign tasks or make approvals, for example, for people in the field. So this is an example where management can be fully remote. Now, once, for example, a group has been assigned to a field staff, the field staff or lead farmer can assign farmers. They have to be approved by the supervisor. They can assign fields, for example. They can do collections, field inspections. Now, everybody is in the system, but there are different authorization levels. Some people can only view the system. Other people can enter data. Other people can, for example, prepare a payment or approve a payment. So throughout, you have a maker and a checker principle. So these are some screenshots from the mobile application. So the mobile application is of course mainly to collect produce, but also to do surveys, or very important is to look up information. So if an extension officer is visiting a farmer or a group, there might be questions directly about outstanding loans, outstanding payments, traceability, fields, the situation of a field, all this. So all this information can be looked up. And so that is also quite a strong feature of the system. Of course, if you would like to, you can integrate mobile devices like Bluetooth scales or Bluetooth printers, so you can print, for example, receipts for the farmers after collecting the produce. Now, the system has many management reports. There are probably more than 100 reports. They can be extracted, quite flexible, different ways to present the information for the farmers, for the groups, for the field staff, for the senior management, for stakeholders like NGOs, for example, or banks. Now, one of the important things is when you're buying from farmers, you would like to pay them based on the quality, or basically manage incentives. So this is really important, because at the end, as a buyer, you're mainly interested in the good quality, and you need big volumes of that. So by paying based on quality, you can manage basically that farmers, by giving a small price incentive, farmers can deliver the good quality. Now, there are different ways that eProd can manage this. In the case of the chilies, for example, there would be simply classes of orange, basically underripe, overripe, rotten, damaged. And after a hand sample, price correction can be done, either at group level or individual level. Now, this is an example of an integration for integration with measurement devices. That could be basically any digital device. In this case, this is to measure the quality of milk. So we have many of these integrations, could be for moist content, could be for aflatoxin. Now, in the case of milk, for example, you see here that the quality of the milk can be determined. And each parameter you see on the right of the picture, you might not be able to read this, but for example, there's pH, added water. Now, for each parameter, like for example, added water, you can put a condition. So this is all backend. So you can say if added water is more than a certain value detected by the machine, you can decide to reject it. But you can also decide to give a bonus, a fine, a premium, different options. Now you can put multiple rules in the system. So for example, you could say The grain, moist content of the grain is 14%, so I have to do additional drying, so I'm charging for 2% points extra drying cost, but actually there was also aflatoxin detected, so I had to reject. Or in the case of milk, you can say I pay a premium for high butterfat, but the milk was sour and I had to reject it. So the rules can interact. And most important, of course, is that this is communicated to the farmers, to the groups, to the field staff, to the senior management. And so the communication is something extremely important because farmers need to understand. It has to be just that, that the price has been adjusted. Now, it's very important when you're working with farmers, especially in this situation. It has been mentioned already by the first presenters. How do you create basically cash flow for the farmers, for the SMEs? Now, it is very important for financial institutions to give loans to small-scale farmers, and even much more under the current circumstances. Farmers often don't have a relationship with the bank or the financial institution. Even if they have a bank account, it doesn't mean there's a credit record. So in this case, in eProd, you can share information, basically an alternative KYC. For example, if you want to develop an input package, the bank can agree farmers that meet certain criteria. For example, they need to have a contract, there should not be a history of default, there should be a crop in the field, the production should be above average in the group, they should participate in training. There's hundreds of variables in the system, so you can agree with the bank what are the criteria for the farmers to meet to be able to attract a loan. Now, the company can, for example, the client using eProd can have a tripartite agreement, a three-way agreement with a financial institution, for example, to accept either the loan directly and process it with the farmers. In this case, eProd can manage the repayment, or so directly, so the SME would take responsibility of the loan, or the farmers can have a loan directly with the financial institution. In this case, the company can still agree to assist with the repayment. So in eProd, there are many ways to manage the repayment. First of all, you can have multiple loans. They can be processed with different priorities. Then there are different ways to make a repayment through checkoff. For example, it could be a fixed percentage of the delivery, a fixed percentage of the loan, a fixed amount per month, could be a grace period. The system is very flexible. Now, these three-way agreements, the tripartite agreements, can become quite comprehensive, even involve the input dealer, it can involve soil testing, advanced services. So the system is very, very strong in this respect, and it has been used like that basically since 2004. And there are many clients using all these functionalities. So the system also offers integration with automated services, for example, weather forecast, but it could also be pest and disease alerts, recommendations for field activities, or even yield forecasting. Yeah, so at a larger scale, you could also think of early warning systems, for example. Now, we have, for example, an integration with an American company called Aware. You see the name in the top left corner, but we are independent, so we could do this with any provider. We try to be independent because we work in so many countries. We always try to make sure that we can offer the best integration for a certain country, whether it is for the SMS or mobile payment, whether it's weather services. Now, we can offer many integrations, for example, with soil maps, with satellite images, and there's also ways to use this, for example, to monitor the crop performance during the season. Now, one of the interesting things in the system is that it's very powerful to manage surveys. So whether you need to do a household survey or baseline survey as an NGO, or you need to do some evaluations, for example, on training or scouting pests and diseases, and all this information can be collected and entered in the system as surveys. The supervisor can assign a survey to a field staff. So you see the supervisor here for a farmer. Let me show you the next slide. So if there's a farmer, there's a staff member called Steve Kariuki. He is assigned by the supervisor a certain survey to visit the field of sorghum for a farmer called Cynthia. Now, when Steve is in the field, he will see the survey becoming active on his mobile device, the Android phone, fills in the questions. You can add, for example, location stamp, timestamp, so you can really check when and where the survey was done. The survey can then be synchronized with the office, and information is shared. If a client wants to do everything on paper, that is also possible. So you do a paper survey, type in exactly the same questions, exactly the same multiple choice, limited choice, open questions. And once, of course, the information is in the system, it is there very patiently also to do longitudinal studies for NGOs, for example, to monitor over long periods the performance. So you can do very comprehensive analysis, for example, for this specific survey, but over time you could also look at impact of certain activities or certain regions, compare crops, performance, etc. Now, the system is very strong in managing traceability. So this is one of the big headaches working with small-scale farmers. When you open a field, the field already has a traceability, it requires a traceability for the seed or the cuttings, whatever you have used. And then throughout the chain, you should be able to trace the product, but also link it to records, like, for example, pesticide use records, to guarantee there's no exceeding of residue levels of pesticides. So eProd is very strong there. The system is available in a number of languages. We are in East Africa. We also started in West Africa. We are basically in Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Ghana, Nigeria, Malawi, Rwanda, Cameroon, Guinea. We are preparing for Senegal, Mali, Morocco. So we are growing very fast. We have all these different languages, different scripts. We are in Afghanistan, so we also have Dari Pashto. For Ethiopia, we have specifically Aymaric Tigrinya, and we just started in Guatemala, and we have added Spanish. Now, the beauty about eProd is that it's all these different modules are integrated. So it's really very useful if you want to do strategic partnerships and monitor, for example, performance over time, or have a strategic project together with a public partner, for example, or an NGO. So we have, we can do remote support. We like to go on site. Under these circumstances, that is difficult. 2 weeks ago, we just completed installation in Guatemala and also training in Guatemala. So we are able to do that, which gives us a big advantage in these difficult times with this Corona pandemic. We try to make it very affordable. That is really important. So we have an objective to offer all these modules basically, roughly at $50 per farmer per year for larger organizations, or roughly €1,000, just over $1,000 per year for small cooperatives. This would be in partnership, for example, with a development organization. So we have, I think, an interesting product. We have a lot of experience working with small-scale farmers. In the meantime, we work in more than 20 different sectors. We have 75 clients already, working with about 250,000 farmers. And because of our experience, we can really help companies transition from working with a few hundred or a few thousand farmers to a multiple of that. I think we have a very affordable license fee compared to competitors, definitely. We have a very flexible system. We can do all kinds of integrations with other ERPs, financial software, hardware. The offline functionality is really important. I think people often underestimate that for Africa. And then we have an excellent back office support team. Thank you very much.